Hello, welcome to Beau, Hannam, Guitars and Ukuleles. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to install a K&K Pure Mini. These are really good pickups. It can be a little bit intimidating the first time you put them in because they're a different way than undersaddle pickups, but this will explain it all and show how easy it actually is. So when you buy a K&K pickup, everything that you need to install it is going to be in the box. It starts with excellent instructions. These are really thought out, systematic, nice color photos. It tells you everything you need to know. There's some warranty stuff, so chuck that on the floor. These are the things you really want to hold on to. There's the golf tee. There's another golf tee without the ball bit, and this is the locating jig. I pulled the white film on it. Take that off so it's clear. You need to be able to see through that. There's some putty, or blue tack in Australia as we call it. Keep that. It also comes with this double-sided tape. Don't use that. It could be used for a preliminary testing just to make sure a customer likes the sound, but for permanent installation, don't use that. Use gel CA glue, and just happens to be Gorilla. You can use just any decent brand. And of course the pickup. This is the Pure Mini, which has 3 pickups. These are going to get stuck in between the strings, and it goes directly under the saddle, and this locator helps you do that. So let me show you how to. So I didn't drill the hole for this because it was already drilled, but if you do need to drill the hole, I made this and it was like one of the best things I ever made. It's a piece of poplar in my case. I lined it with cork. That's a 1/2-inch hole. If you've ever done this, you know what I'm about to say. When you're drilling through the end block, you never quite know when it's going to punch through. And it doesn't matter how careful you are, the possibility of you ramming into the guitar it's always there. And I did it once and I said I'd never do it again. Well, technically I still do it, but I hit this instead of the guitar. So make one of these, they're really good. So firstly, take off the nut and washers, and then we'll just figure out what the depth of the end block is. One of the best tools ever invented is this tool from StewMac. It's for installing jacks, and it's just a simple thing that goes into the jack, and it makes doing this job so much easier. So just put the pickup in the sound hole and thread the jack tool into the pickup and pull it back out through the jack hole. Okay, so there's way too much exposed or protruding from here, so I just have to get that down, and I have to wind it about another 1/4 of an inch in. What I mean by that is, with this you just have to move this up about 1/4 of an inch. I could have measured it with a ruler to get it spot on first go, so that should be about right. So how much threaded insert you want will be dictated by the outer sheath which goes over it. You want the end of the threaded insert, or the threaded part of the jack, to be level with the outer part of the sheath. And this ensures that the guitar lead has maximum connectivity with the jack. So that is spot on. So once you've got that depth correct, just put on the nuts and washers for safekeeping back onto the jack. There's 2 different ways that I've installed these before. Everything's the same apart from one of the pickups that you put between the E and the B string, so the top treble strings. On page, I think it's page 8 of the K&K pickup installation guide, they say to place the top pickup directly under the E string. I've done that before and I get good results. In this video I'm going to show what I do with the other 2 pickups, which is put it between the E and the B string. There's only like an 1/8 of an inch difference. I've not heard any difference in power or output or evenness of the output. So if you want to put it directly between the strings, that's fine. If you want to put it under the E string, that's also fine. Test with some double-sided tape and see what's best for you. It may differ between guitar to guitar, but I don't hear a difference, so it doesn't matter. First thing before installation is to clean the bridge plate. Just make sure it's free of dust and grime and grit and anything that's going to stop the CA glue sticking. So the install is quite straightforward. You just use this see-through Perspex locating jig. The white golf tee without the head on it is located and fixed into the round hole. You can even CA glue that in. You want it tight, that's going to remain permanently in there. The other golf tee goes into the elongated hole, and you skip one of the bridge pin holes to put the second golf tee in, and that's the one that gets taken in and out, and you'll see about that later. So the jig is see-through, which allows the putty to be placed exactly on the saddle and directly where you want it along the saddle. So in this case, I'm putting it between the E and the B string. And remember, the K&K manual suggests to put it directly under the E string. Also remember that I've tried both and I didn't hear a difference, but do test just to see which one you prefer for your guitar. So for this first pickup placement and gluing in, I'm going to go through the entire process ad nauseum, and you'll have a real understanding of how to do it, and the two other pickups are exactly the same, so we can kind of speed through it after I really detail the first one. So if this is your first time doing this, do a dry run. Also, get a nice strong light, put it inside so it illuminates the bridge pin holes, and you'll see why later. Pretend that I've just put some CA glue on the pickup. Then you take out the golf tee out of the elongated hole, and then keeping that in position the way it is, put it through the sound hole, try not to touch anything, and then see the light. It makes locating the tee way easier. And then put the other tee in the elongated hole and just wiggle it to make sure it's in. So can you see what's happened? That's in exactly the same spot as it was on the top, but now it's just on the bottom. It's a really simple, ingenious way to do it. Okay, time to glue. Because we're dealing with super glue, put some towel or something to protect the top, because you do not want to get super glue on a nitro finish. Can't really shake this, but you're supposed to shake it. And I'm just going to make sure, just a final time, that the bridge plate is, doesn't have dust all over it, doesn't have bumps, doesn't have anything that's going to make this not adhere to it. So double check, everything's in line. This is right on the center of the saddle. So applying the gel CA glue, you don't need heaps, but you don't want it to be, you don't want a dry thing. You just don't want, when you squish the pickup up against the bridge plate, you just don't want it to be squirting out everywhere. So just be careful. So take this out. And so just like you did on the dry run, just take it out evenly and don't rush. Make sure the second tee that goes in the elongated slot is, just wiggle it just to make sure that it's centered. If that isn't centered, the pickup won't be directly under the saddle. So here I'm pushing from the inside up against the top and on the pickup, and I'm pushing down on the pickup location, which is between the two bridge pins. And you want to hold that for about 30 seconds, just until the CA glue definitely goes off. Gel CA goes off at about after 30 seconds. So here's a nice look on the inside, what's going on. You can see the two golf tees on the E and G bridge pin holes. The putty has secured the pickup to the location, which is directly under the saddle. You want to keep that in position for at least 30 seconds, holding it down, because when you pull it out, if the CA glue hasn't kicked off, the putty will be stronger and the putty will pull the pickup off the bridge pad. So you just need to make sure that you hold it in place for long enough for the CA glue to harden up. And after about 30 seconds, I took out the jig, and that is what you can see. The putty is still sticking to the pickup, and that's totally normal. I leave that for, a good minute until I peel off the putty. Otherwise, it might still peel off the pickup, but, it's never actually happened. It's just something that I worry about. I forgot to say that it doesn't matter what order you glue the pickups in, but I usually go, treble to bass for no particular reason. But the middle pickup, which is the one I'll do next, goes between the G and the D. And for that to happen, you need to put the golf tees in the A and the G strings. So that's positioned, and you can see that the red dot is where the putty and the pickup are going to go. Okay, speeding things along. Let's if you've done one, you've done all three basically. Just locating the pickup right in the center of the saddle, putting on some CA glue. You're supposed to shake the gel CA glue, but it doesn't really shake, so I don't know what they mean by that, but you know, I shake it anyway just to be careful. Not too much, not too little. Stick it in there. The light makes it really easy to see. Make sure you put it back through the G and the A strings, in this case, the T's, and wait 30 seconds. You know, if you want to wait more, then go ahead. And there's the second pickup installed. Still messy, but it's about to look clean. So the third pickup is exactly the same. You just put the locating golf tees in the low E string and the D string, and bang, it's done. Wow. So you can see that the pickups are on an angle which directly under the saddle slot, so the angle makes sense. And here it is cleaned up without the putty. Everything is looking beautiful. Everything's well positioned. Everything is in between the bridge pins where they need to be. And like I said, you can put the top treble pickup under the A string, or under the top E string, or between the E and the B. Up to you. Just give it a test and use a double-sided tape until you figure out what's best for you and your instrument. So I've got one more trick for pickup installation, and that is to use this. So it's the blue thread locker. Don't use the red because that's permanent. This is removable. I call this stuff Smurf blood. Just look inside the sound hole just to make sure that there's nothing going to impede everything going cleanly and nice. The StewMac jack installer, get that in there. You can see it sticking out here. So with the inside nut, that's the nut that will be on the inside of the guitar. Just put a bit of thread locker on that. I probably needed like a quarter of that much, but just to wind that nut back and forth a little bit, and that will just lock that in place. It'll stop any rattling that may occur inside, which is a real bugger to try and diagnose. Just preload the jack installer with the washer, or the nut first and then the washer, and that just helps putting it on. So the tips for the outside nut washer cover are kind of similar to what you just saw. Just use the thread locker on it all. So just wind the washer and nut on. Just put a small drop of the Smurf blood on, and that'll set it in place. If you don't own one of a Jack the Gripper, you should buy one if you're doing lots of installs, because I didn't own one for 20 years and I got one last year, and the thing is fantastic. Unfortunately, I filmed this before I actually owned Jack the Gripper, so I'm using a sharp awl and another StewMac thin wrench tool, which is also handy. So I threaded on, or blue threaded, the nut and washer, and then put some more on the outer sheath, and that just stops anything rattling. So you just got to make sure that everything's fitting perfectly before you lock it in place. And so once the three pickups are glued in place and you've removed the putty, just use the little 1-inch sleeve here and just move that somewhere around the middle of the length of the wire, and that just helps mitigate any unruly floppy wires that can maybe cause buzzing. And the length of a K&K pickup is usually really spot on in regard to bridge pickup placement and the jack, But if you find that it is a bit long, just use a wire tab to mitigate the length of it. So here's a final look on the inside. Hopefully you won't get seasick watching this. The cord looks a little low there, but it is actually high enough to not rattle. But you can see that I've hiked up that little 1-inch sleeve just so there's, the 3 pickups aren't tight, but they're not super loose either. And it just, looks pretty neat. If I wanted to, I could put a wire tab on probably the very far back brace, and that would just really lock the whole thing down if the guitar was going to get rattled around a bit. So I didn't need any of these wire tabs. They are excellent. For almost any other pickup, you really need a whole bunch of these. When I make an instrument, a guitar or uke, put some of these, I put like 5 around the upper bout and lower bout on the bass side for a right-handed player. It makes it easier when you do it, when the top and back are off. But yeah, wire mitigation, just make sure nothing's buzzing. If it does, just attach some of these. So there is a uke version of the K&K pickup, and it is called the Aloha Twin, and there's another one called the Big Island Spot. The Big Island Spot is a single pickup, and I don't really recommend that. I don't know, I've never actually used it, but I always recommend the Aloha Twin, which is the one I'm holding here. It's just a 2 pickup version of the 3 pickup Pure Mini that goes into a guitar. And the installation is exactly the same. You just put it under the saddle between the strings, just like the guitar version. Another way to get really good tone in a guitar is to make sure that the string angle behind the saddle is of a appropriate nature. You don't want it to be too flat because you will get a dead sounding guitar. You don't want it to be too high because the front of the bridge will break off. But string ramps do help a lot with general tone, especially on a guitar that truly needs it. Just some tips is just take into account the winding of the string closest to the ball end, and just pay attention to the string ramps in relation to the saddle slot. I prefer to get the distance from the saddle slot to the end of the string ramps to be about even. Having the ramps even just makes the whole thing look far neater. Here's a Martin guitar, which you're about to see in a time-lapse with the string ramps cut, and that same guitar is this guitar. And this is a real-time repair job that I did, and you can see the egg timer in the top left. I won't spoil it, but it didn't take very long. Once you get good at it and you know what you're doing and you're not filming a video, you can get this done pretty quickly and make some decent money in regard to pickup installation. All the tools that I used in this video, I'll leave a link in the description and all that, so I hope that will be helpful. All the best. I hope you learned something with this. I hope it was thorough enough that you were confident to get it done. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I'll answer each and every one of them. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all that, and I hope to see you in the next video. Stay safe and all the best. Bye.